Hi, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Miriam Staub. I'm a somatic transforming touch trauma practitioner, and I have two of my great friends here today. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
So, this is Dr. Charles Glassman. He's a physician for over 30 years, author, and also a coach. And my other great friend, Dr. Tom Martin, a mental health expert and a professor in Dominican College, right?
Right.
Teaching psych class. So, that's really cool. Thank you guys for coming.
Thanks for having us, Miriam.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would like to start with something that really grounds me and like makes everyone more centered. So what we're gonna do is put one hand on our heart and the other hand on your stomach, like that really attacks the central nervous vagus nerve. And let's take a deep breath in. One more time. Okay. How did it feel?
Great.
Yeah? More
Yeah.
centered?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think the important thing here is when you inhale, make sure you push your belly out.
Right.
The diaphragm expands, and you exhale, it collapses.
That's true.
So you get more air in your lungs.
Good point. And today I want to talk about fear and how it really lies to us and it's a complete manipulator. And we shouldn't listen to it, almost never, unless you're in real danger, like a lion running after you, which hardly ever happens. Other than that, we don't listen to fear. And your book about Fear is a Liar, you talk a lot about how fear really takes over your brain and it's very primitive. So I want to know more about how you can help people move out of fear-based brain and more into a higher mind,
Mm-hmm.
in daily living.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to kind of back up and kind of tell you like how this started for me. Like, why did I start thinking of that? I'm a doctor. I'm an internist. I'm somebody who is supposed to just diagnose and prescribe medications. But I found that when people would come to me, a lot of the times it was not about the actual illness. And I started thinking about this concept of fear back when I was actually a medical student.
Wow.
Because what happened to me, I call it the blood pressure incident, okay? And it was the start of me developing white coat syndrome. Mm-hmm. And for those of the audience who doesn't know what white coat syndrome is, it means that anybody who has a white coat who comes towards you, it automatically makes your blood pressure go up.
Like freaking out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that response, think about it, it's the same exact response, that fight or flight response, as though you were in serious danger. Wow. It's not discriminating. Okay, so if somebody with a white coat is who's helping you, all of a sudden your brain is processing it as, oh my goodness, danger. So I was a medical student studying for my boards and never had a problem with my blood pressure. And all of a sudden, I felt my heart skip a beat while I'm studying. And I asked my roommate to check my blood pressure, and he got like 130/80, which is not high, okay, by any means, okay. But for a second-year medical student who always was told 120/80 was what you wanted, all of a sudden I started freaking out. And from that point on, I called my parents. They took me to the doctor, and by then it was trauma. Basically, it was trauma because every time the doctor would take my blood pressure, I could feel my heart pounding. So
it's a very common thing, yeah.
Yeah. So think about that. It's the same fight or flight. Our brain is processing that there's danger when it's not danger, okay? And it's causing this instantaneous reaction. And that's what fear is. Wow. Fear is danger. So I started, thinking about that and wondering, that's not really me, right? I mean, that's something else is taking control. And through that, and we'll talk about this in a little while, I'm sure, about how I started writing about it, but I decided that I had to do something about it. So during my medical school and residency, the way I dealt with it, I did karate and I ran. Okay, so I sublimated that. Okay, so I transformed that anxiety and those fight or flight to something that was action-based. Movement, yeah.
That takes anxiety. It's very good for anxiety.
Yeah. So I learned how to meditate in karate, and I started running, doing 5Ks and 10Ks and that sort of thing, and that kind of held it at bay, but still it existed. So I carried that throughout my career, and I started thinking a lot about it later on, and then we'll talk about, how I've dealt with it since then, because that's great, the exercise and doing something to get over that fear and putting it somewhere else. That is your higher mind taking control.
That's true.
But there's other methods as well we could talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about you, Tom? Like, how do you feel like if you're in a fear-based situation, and you're like in this catastrophic thought loop, how do you dismantle that?
One is awareness.
Okay.
Okay. But I want to go back to something you said about
Okay.
fear dangerous. Okay. Sometimes fear keeps you into a dangerous situation because the mind sees the fear as stepping out of your comfort zone. We can't do that, and that's why a lot of people stay in bad relationships because they're used to that.
True.
And if someone treats them nicely, the mind's like, oh no, we don't recognize this. Stay in danger.
Safety feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, because fear wants to keep you safe. But fear would keep you in a burning building,
Wow.
where you'd be too fearful to walk out because what you think's going to happen, what you fear is going to happen, that's what fear does. It keeps you there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what I do is awareness.
Okay.
I try to scan my body real quick to notice the physical sensations I'm feeling and deal with that, because that would tell me what's going on with my emotions. In my background, I'm a retired police officer.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't have time to do all that. So
Wow.
it has to come automatically. And it happens because you practice it throughout the day with other things. And then when it happens, you just act instantly.
Yeah,
But then sometimes you don't, no matter how much you try.
Yeah.
You know? So-
We never think about like police officers actually feel fear as well, and and then they have to react right away.
Yeah.
They don't
and
have time to
a lot of
process.
times you get used to it, you expect it. But even then, sometimes you might do fine for many years. Then one simple thing can happen, and boom, fear takes over. It depends on what's going on in your life at the time, stressful situation at home, were you eating right, do you get enough sleep? All those are factored in.
Yeah.
So.
And how you manage it, like you were saying, running and meditating, all these things really
Yeah.
help to manage it, but it doesn't, get to the bottom of it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
There's no cure.
Yeah. Well, this,
Good man.
and I like that, that aspect and what you were saying about the awareness. And there's no cure because, we are animals. Okay.
Right.
Homo sapiens is an animal, and we have a higher mind, a higher consciousness, which separates us from all other animals.
Right.
But all animals are fight or flight driven. It's all reaction. So it's not, we don't look at animals who acting out their fight or flight
Right.
and saying, oh, they're bad, they're evil. Like the lion that's devouring the gazelle, we don't say, oh, what a bad lion, what an
Right.
evil lion, right? Obviously, if a human being devours another human being or another whatever, that person,
problem.
right? And because we know we have free will and we know right or wrong. So the awareness that's key. I think is being aware that we have that primitive part of us, that what I call automatic brain,
Right.
and it's automatic. It just fires from the possibility of danger versus the probability. Right. So, we have a higher consciousness. We have this idea of, we have the ability, we have free will.
Yes.
We can choose our actions. We can choose right or wrong. What our brain does, it just detects the possibility, the mere possibility of danger, and it will react with those reactions, fight or flight.
Right.
And some people say there's freeze and there's fawn. I look at those as just on the spectrum of fight or flight.
Right.
Because the freeze is basically, the tug and pull, or the push and pull, right?
It's fun, basically.
And right, and the fawn is kind of just pleasing, whatever, just kind of wimping out in a way and just letting
Keeping safe, yeah.
being safe, right.
Right.
So but the possibility versus probability, I think, is really good because we can figure out, am I really in danger? I mean, is this person taking my blood pressure? I mean, what is this person doing? Or are they going to detect, oh my God, here I'm a 2-year-old, 23-year-old young man. I mean, what's the likelihood that I would have heart disease or an aneurysm or something catastrophic, okay?
Right.
But the mere possibility of that, especially, and this is where we get into the psychology,
Right.
coming from a household where it's a whole, your uncle died of a heart attack at 42. Your grandfather died of a heart attack in his 40s. Hearing that, being the familiar voice that I was hearing growing up in a way, kind of
It's
was
in your DNA almost. Yes.
almost in my DNA, was back there. So when this event happened, this automatic brain is processing and so, there's possibility of danger. So it's gonna what does it do? Fights or flees, and that fight or flight is what causes that physiologic reaction.
So like
Well,
you
you
were- oh, sorry.
described my clients, some of my clients. I had one whose father died of cancer. And every time this guy sneezes, he thinks he has cancer. And well, I guess that we default to negative. You said probability versus possibility. We default to negative for protection.
Yes.
Based on our childhood experiences.
Exactly.
And maybe in evolutionary psychology, they say the same thing. If we didn't have that, we won't survive.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a lot where I come in, like with a lot of these clients, and I'm like, their fear-based brain is so strong, so they have zero regulation, and their nervous system is all over the place. So with the somatic work, you actually get to go into their body and create direct regulation to the nervous system, so they can get into a higher mind and even be aware of higher consciousness at all, because they're in such strong like fight or flight state they can't even think. And that's where like medication also comes in. I know like we talk about this a lot. People are there's a lot of pros and cons against medication, but I feel like everything has its place, right? So what's your take on like people take Klonopin or Xanax if they're in such a state, right? So we want to treat them because they're really suffering. They can't really continue their daily life because they're really not functioning. But what are the long-term effects, and how does it backfire on you eventually, right?
Well, long-term effects is addiction, psychological addiction as well. See, I see medication as something you need if you can't function.
Right.
For example, I like the analogy of a swimmer or someone who can't swim. We throw them in the water. What's going to happen? They're going to drown. So we need something to keep them afloat. So we throw them a life preserver. All right. So if someone can't function, they're drowning, we give them a life preserver, medication to keep them afloat. And once they're functioning, they have to learn how to swim. And that's called therapy.
Right.
And once they learn the skills of therapy, you can slowly remove the life preserver or remove the medication slowly, and then they're on their own.
Right.
But unfortunately, once they're on medication, they're fine. They think, oh, it's great, it's cured. You're not cured, okay? And they stay on it too long. Yeah, and it causes a lot of problems. And if you're on medication, in my opinion, you have to be in therapy. You have to learn the skills, because medication for psych disorders, for most anyway, should be temporary. I mean, schizophrenia, bipolar, maybe not, but other ones, depression, anxiety, it should be temporary.
Trauma-based, anything.
And medication is like going to the gym and having someone stand behind you, lift the weights.
Wow.
The weight is lifted, but you're not getting stronger. The anxiety is going away, but it's not you doing it. So you don't have that skill to be able to process it. So if that makes sense.
Have
It
you
does.
seen any of that in your practice?
Yeah, in my experience, it's a lot of people will look at me and, I'm anti-drugs. I'm anti because I was a more holistic practitioner, right? But that's not the case, all right? Because sometimes you need to break the cycle. So what I look at and what I've written about is what I call the fear cycle.
Okay.
So the fear cycle of this automatic brain that we're talking about, you have the big danger that's up here. Okay. And that big danger for me, let's say, was my childhood experiences of hearing about the possibility that I could get early heart disease or whatever.
Yes.
So that was a big danger that's lying up here.
The red light.
The red light,
Yeah.
right. But most of the time we don't. We're operating down. So that big danger is causing a fight or flight that I might not be aware of until a circumstance happens to trigger it. So the blood pressure incident, right? So then the blood pressure incident happens. That causes me to have physiologic response. Now the physiologic response is very uncomfortable and real. We know, fight or flight. You're trembly, you're anxious, your
Can't
muscles,
breathe.
you can't breathe, your muscles are tight. Very real, very convincing. But what does that message send to you? Okay, it sends to you another thing. Oh, I'm out of control. I'm losing control. I'm weak. That also signals danger. That causes more physiologic responses, right? So you're fighting or fleeing, you feel terrible, then you say, oh God, I have to go to the doctor. So you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, yeah, you need medication. And now you're really weak, I'm reliant, whatever, so, oh, I'm a loser. The doctor gives you medication, right? That flips you up now to the top of the cycle. You're circling in here because you're a loser or whatever, and you keep...
You're in a loop.
You're in a loop.
Yeah.
But the medication can sometimes break that, while then you go to therapy so you can understand your big dangers so you don't fire that loop anymore.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, I call that the fear cycle, because you cycle this automatic brain. It's succeeded. Because what has it succeeded? It has succeeded at you fighting and fleeing the big danger up here, which is maybe, you know, early death you're afraid of, or whatever.
Sickness, it could be anything.
It could be anything in
Yeah.
the cultural, you know, your home culture as a child, whatever. And it succeeded at doing that. You're cycling in here. You're taking medications. You're you know, whatever. You know, without the therapy, you're not getting at the root of it. So I think it's so important to be aware, to become aware of that. I put that because I had to form a framework for myself. What did I do? Instead of going for the medication, I did the karate. I did the running.
Much better.
That was my
Yeah.
medication.
You don't
and
get addicted to that.
And I did therapy.
Okay, that's
I went to
great.
therapy. Okay, and it was great for me. And it ultimately, I wasn't relying so much on the obsession of the exercise, because that can become another drug.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, but it's safer than the drugs, right? So
It is. But if you're doing it to avoid a specific feeling, it's not good.
right, you're always about like feeling the feelings. Don't
Yeah,
be
not
afraid of it.
avoidance. You gotta feel it. You gotta feel it to get it to, so it won't affect you as much.
Do you believe in feeling to heal, or just working your way
Well,
through
when
it?
it comes to psychology, there is no real healing.
Okay.
It's not like in medicine where you have an infection and boom, it's healed with the medication. It's being able to process it and be okay with it. Okay. I like the example of a bull in a china shop.
Okay.
It's going to destroy everything in a contained china shop. But if you take that same bull without changing its behavior and put it in a big open field, it's not destroying anything. So you
Right.
gave it that space to allow it to do its thing. You're giving your mind the space for it to have that negative feeling without
Right.
affecting you.
And you also talk about like the bus, right? Like it's sort of IFS.
The bus analogy, yes.
Yeah, the bus analogy.
Have you
I
heard the
really
bus
like that.
analogy?
No,
Yeah,
Okay.
I like that.
So, so a bus has a bus driver, the bus, and passengers. And all day long, passengers get on and they get off. Right? Sometimes they're rude, they're nice, whatever it is. Even if they're yelling at the bus driver, all the bus driver does is just drive the bus, because those passengers will eventually get off. So if you stop to confront the passenger, a fight ensues, the bus stops moving, and the passenger stays there longer. Okay? So the analogy is your mind is the bus, you're the bus driver. And your passengers are all those negative thoughts that come into your mind. And you can't control that. No one can control that. But you don't confront the passenger. You don't confront those thoughts. If you confront those thoughts, they stay in your mind longer. And they'll eventually leave anyway. So all you got to do is just keep driving your bus. So if you keep confronting your passengers, the negative thoughts, you have what you call an emotion-driven life. Okay? It's going to be up and down. And that's not a good way to go.
Yeah.
No.
You want your thoughts or your life to be driven by your values. So that's why you're driving your bus, towards your values. Am I going to confront this nasty negative passenger, my negative feeling? No, if I do that, I won't be following my values. My behavior won't be aligned with my values. So you just leave that thought there. It's not going to hurt you. It's just a thought, and thoughts can't hurt you.
Yeah.
You just leave it there and just keep driving your bus towards your values. It will eventually get off,
Yeah.
And
but
I
it'll
like-
get back on again.
Right, but I like the visualization that you always talk about. Like you have like little people on the bus. They're just passengers on your bus. They're not the whole you. They're part of you, but they're tiny little passengers.
Yeah.
They're not these huge monsters. You
Well,
know?
some people need bigger buses, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I probably have a big bus.
Right.
There's
Right.
a lot of people on my bus.
Yes.
But it takes a lot of work to do that.
Yeah.
But you're already doing the work. Confronting your passengers and responding to your negative thoughts and being depressed and angry all the time, takes a lot of work. Congratulations. They
Yeah.
have to put that same amount of work into thinking differently.
Yes.
All right. So you can do the work. It's just being able to make that shift is a tough part for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that's where the breathing and mindfulness comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and create space for it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think and it becomes your normal. You're expected. You're familiar, and that part of this, what I call again the framework of the automatic brain is that it's always looking for that safety and the possibility of danger. It's going to fight or flee. So there could be the familiar, even though the familiar could be miserable, like you said before,
Right.
being in a bad relationship or
The folders, you call it, right?
I call
Like
the
four
folders, right,
Yeah.
right. We learn as a I have the three folders that
Yeah.
is what I call the one up folder, the unknown folder, and the loss of love
Loss of love,
folder, right. And so when we're children in our home culture, so we're not born with a blank slate, but we are born mostly with empty folders. What's going to cause us as adults to know what's greater, bigger, stronger than us, okay?
Right.
Richer, better looking, taller, shorter, whatever it is. We're going to learn as we're growing in the culture of our home what's going to go in those folders. The unknown, the same thing. So whatever the familiar culture is in our home, if our familiar culture in our home is one of lack, okay, that's going to be familiar. So
That's
Right.
normal.
as we're
That's it.
as we are older, if we're all of a sudden breaking that mold, well, that may be unfamiliar to us. It may trigger something. Okay,
Fear.
fear, exactly. And if tension and arguing and
Yelling,
anxiety,
yeah.
daily drama, that's going to be our norm. So again, as an adult, but here's the loss of love. We may lose the thread of love if we break that mold and be a different person.
No one's going to love us.
No one's going to love
Right.
us, and we don't have
That's
that
scary.
security,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we fight and flee that. So, but you don't necessarily have to go back to childhood all the time, like you're saying with the bus example, with the thoughts and everything. I like to think of it as if we can make the abnormal normal, the
Yes.
unexpected expected,
Right.
the unfamiliar familiar, we're actually tricking that automatic brain because now if we want to, let's say we don't want to be, okay, so I want to prove to myself that I'm not going to get a heart attack. So that was one of the reasons why I was running. Maybe one of the reasons why I do CrossFits, and
Subconsciously, you
subconsciously,
didn't know about it, yeah.
because I'm proving to myself I'm healthy, and so I'm creating a new normal. So I'm proving that that's wrong. Okay, so that's where the awareness comes in. You really have to say, okay, this is just not. Those thoughts that's ridiculous. I'm not like that. So actually, it takes courage to move the other direction and to kind of prove it. And so by making it your new normal, you're not going to fight and flee it anymore. Yeah. So
you
it
trick
takes
it.
work.
Yeah.
It takes therapy
Takes
a lot
work.
of times. Yeah.
Awareness, focus, journaling can help also because it makes you do it. So it does take a lot of work. It's not easy.
But it's
Yeah.
worth it because then you're free.
Yeah.
You can if you make your uncomfortable comfortable. I mean, you can do anything.
Well, you're free from the reaction, not from the negative thought to begin with, or the fear. It's always going to be there.
Yeah.
But you're free from reacting to it. You're no longer reacting, you're responding.
You're also
Through
thinking
awareness.
that like being uncomfortable is actually safe. So you're afraid.
Yeah.
So you're not afraid of being uncomfortable anymore.
Right.
So you created a safety with being uncomfortable, right?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
a lot
that-
of times we have the struggle comes from like anger. I don't like the way it feels.
Yeah.
So we lash out to get rid of it. So it's not the feeling that's the problem. It's the fact that you don't want to feel it. Instead of it's okay to feel this. I'm a human being. There's no problem with that. Let me just feel this.
Yeah.
But no, people want to get rid of the feeling. Whether it be anxiety, depression, or anger, and that's what causes the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And also, I always like to give people practical ideas, like how they can use it in everyday life. So, like now we're talking about if someone, let's say, is afraid of the one-upping, right? If someone one-ups them, they feel very scared. So, what's a practical idea? Like I know, like in your book, you always have these at the end, like these practical things that you can
Yes.
do. So, how do we we're aware of it? So, let's say we already did the therapy, and we're aware that we're scared of one-upping, right? So, how do we move from that into a higher mind.
Yeah.
How do we move from that into
Is that
more
ego?
tranquility?
It is. So I say, so in my book, there's a chapter, automatic brain is ego.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so, to me, that is this primitive nature of ours. And so the primitive nature, back 50,000, 100,000 years ago, it was very clear. Something, is hunting you, you're hunting something, someone's bigger, whatever, and it's not, it's not a mystery why taller people, let's say,
Yeah.
are thought of as being stronger, as being more intelligent, and I say that because if you look at the CEOs, the survey, the majority of CEOs in the United States are above 6 feet tall.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's been only like 2 presidents in history that have been less than 6 feet tall. Okay,
Really?
and they were like
Huh.
5'11" or whatever.
They're
So
all tall and
right. So,
statuesque.
but it's not a mystery why that is because it and I told this to a friend of mine who's 6'6". Never, he had never even thought that he had an advantage in a way. Over me, let's say. I mean, I don't view it like that anymore,
Yeah.
but I used to have a problem with it when I was younger. But now it doesn't. One of the things that I do is the self-talk. So if I'm going into a room, I may say like, I am, strong.
I'm 6 feet tall.
I'm 6 feet tall, right. So one person said to me, when I did I met, because we were working remotely, and the company's based in Oregon. And so I went to Oregon, and this guy, he said, I thought you were a lot taller. And I said, well, I am on the inside. Right?
Yeah, and it affects the outside.
Right,
Definitely.
and so that's the stuff. So when you go into, let's say, a deli, okay, and he doesn't really, I mean, he can see above everybody else, or if you whatever. And so evolutionary-wise, that has a big advantage because you could see further. You could see, when you're taller, you could see over the brush, whatever it is. And so, and stronger, brute strength. I mean,
Right.
and if you look at people who, if they choose, a lot of times they're attracted to somebody who can protect them in a way, protect
They
them
look
physically.
taller, yeah.
Right, and they're taller, tall, dark, and handsome. So
That's
right, it's that kind of that feeling. So that's part of the one-up, kind of what we're programmed with, right? So, but most people are not thinking about that. It depends on their physical stature, but a lot of people are thinking about being one-upped economically. Okay, that's a big one.
Yes.
Socially, big one.
More popular,
More
right?
popular,
Yeah.
right? So on social media, right?
More influence, more likes, or
more
followers.
likes,
Yeah.
more follows, more whatever, and you see somebody, you're scrolling, so they're going on another vacation. Oh, I wish I could do that. Oh, they have such a perfect marriage. Oh, I wish my marriage was
And
like
they're only
that.
showing you like this amount of their
Right,
life,
it's the
really, so
highlight.
it's
Like
not really-
comparison.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's being one. So the way that is, you can take a step back, and I never like the argument that says, it could be worse. I don't like that. But I just don't. I mean, that works for some people, right? But I don't like to look at my life.
Yeah, how does that help
That-
me? It could be worse. Like,
Right, it
yeah,
could be worse.
yeah.
Right, I don't like that, but if it helps somebody, they could use that.
Okay.
But what I say is, you take a step back, and you say, what does this really mean to my life? What does it really, really mean to my life? Is there a possibility that they're going to, destroy me and embarrass me and humiliate me? Okay, there might be a tiny chance of that happening
Right.
through their workings and dealings, whatever. But it's not. It's not going to. And so when if you walk into a place and you feel uncomfortable, chances are the other people are feeling just as uncomfortable,
Exactly.
right? And it's not about saying, they're feeling whatever, could be worse, whatever. They're feeling the same as I am. But it's being aware that the automatic brain doesn't discriminate. Every human being has the automatic brain, just like we have a higher consciousness, which I've called the mind, which
Yeah.
I feel is our divine imprint. Okay,
Yes.
we all have it. So there are people who say, oh, the other guys, I mean, I'm not going to get political here, but, Republicans will say, oh, the Democrats, they don't, they're the only ones that have the automatic brains. The Democrats say, oh, the Republicans, they have the automatic brain, not knowing that, they're the bad guys. Oh, they're the bad guys.
Yeah.
Everybody's pointing, but the reality is we're all doing that fight or flight just in a different way. So
Right.
I think the awareness is a technique. Just know when you're.
That's where it starts.
That's
the
where it
awareness,
starts. That's where it starts, and then you can do some self-talk exercises, and your somatic work is probably very helpful.
Yeah, that
with that
actually
as well.
that regulates you, so you can really be aware and feel the calmness in your body to think even. So
Yeah.
if you're in panic, you can't think anything.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and then we move into the higher consciousness and thinking about like, what are we doing with, what does the higher mind tell us? So how do we know that it's the higher mind?
Yeah. So the way I know is that the higher mind will never, like we hear the voices, the voices of the higher consciousness will never, ever be self-deprecating, will never, ever be mean
Against
or
your values.
against your values, or telling you to hurt somebody, or telling you to humiliate somebody. It'll never do that.
Right.
So the voices that are telling you to do that, you can be pretty clear that those are coming from your primitive nature, your
Right.
animal automatic brain.
So is that what the inner critic is?
That's the ego.
That's the ego,
Yeah.
right. Which is, again, is our primitive nature, that I would say, and because it's always, it's, again, the possibility of danger. So, you're stupid. If it tells you you're stupid, it's because it wants you to fight or flee an uncomfortable situation. So,
Right.
if having the courage to confront that uncomfortable situation will start making that more comfortable.
And that's
Yeah.
almost a very good way to have inner guidance. So I think everyone has an inner guidance. We're born with that. So if you have a thought or wanting to do an action, always think like, where is it coming from? Is it coming from fear-based thoughts, or is it coming from integrity, or it aligns with your values? Then it's an automatic yes.
That's tough because a lot of these thoughts are automatic thoughts. Been having it all your life, and you think because it's so automatic and quick, you think that's the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
So to change that is a tough part.
Yeah.
To identify those beliefs and start changing them.
Then it goes one thought at a time. So think about, what's the thought telling you? Is it yelling at you? Is it criticizing you? Then whatever it wants you to do, then it's a no.
Yeah.
But if it's being kind to you, then that's coming from your intuition. That's coming from your higher mind. That's what you should do. Follow that.
Yeah. I think that's good advice. And so I have
Right.
kind of a trick that we talk about,
Okay.
kind of tools that we can use. Anytime, because we can get crazy thoughts. I mean, if I told people the crazy thoughts, you'd never be sitting here with me. The crazy
Same here.
right? I mean,
Right? Thoughts we have?
I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I could.
Well, most people can deal with them. The ones who don't end up in
Right,
therapy.
right, yeah, right. So, but what I know now is the crazier my thoughts and the more rapid they're firing,
Right.
it means I am going out of my comfort zone. I am approaching something that's more what I should be doing, where my life should be going. So the more it fires, it's actually, I use that as a signal. My automatic brain is warning me about the possibility of danger, but I'm thinking, no, it may be a possibility, but the probability is low that there's actually danger here.
Right.
So I'm going to go for it. I'm going to jump in. And I know that once I start doing that, those thoughts kind of automatically start tempering because it's not dangerous anymore. So those thoughts come, rapid fire. And a lot of times you can't identify them. And I'll go to the idea of therapy because they're coming up from that, or ingrained since childhood.
You think that's your normal.
Right. You think it's your normal.
Yeah.
And all of those actions you're taking are dangerous. And I mean, it's just, it becomes like even the minor things that are associated with something can trigger it, And so that's where medication comes in. That's where therapy comes in, because when you can't control it, then you can't. But I know, to me, it's a signal, and I laugh at it. Because the stupidest,
That's right.
I mean, really crazy thoughts that are so against anything that I would ever do,
Right.
or my values say, or whatever. And I know that, boy, I'm about to do something really big here. I got to keep doing it. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I use fear as an indicator. When I want to do something and fear hits, that means I'm doing something right.
Yes.
So you just look at the fear, say hi, and move on, and do things in spite of the fear.
Yeah.
And that's tough to do, but when you start doing that, you start to feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
Gives you self-confidence.
Yeah, you still have that little thing behind it, but that's where it is. Little
Yeah.
thing behind you.
Yeah.
So,
And you also say like when you breathe into your heart to get more of that like peace sensation that can help you move into the higher mind as well, right? So can you like explain more like how we do it, like breathing into your heart to feel the
well, you
the
can
peace
imagine
more?
your breath going into your heart.
Right.
But remember, breath got to be the belly breath.
Yeah.
That has to expand.
Okay.
Because most people are chest breathers. And when you do that, your diaphragm doesn't expand and the air is
Okay.
not sucked in. So you get very little air in your lungs. Someone who's always nervous or nervous like before they go on stage or something.
Shallow breath.
Shallow breath.
Yeah.
People breathe like that their entire lives. And when I teach them that and do it the other way, they actually get dizzy sometimes doing the belly breathing. And I say, just try that throughout the day. In fact, if you lay down flat and breathe normally, your belly goes up naturally. All right.
It's like almost when you're sleeping, you're breathing
Yeah.
from your stomach.
So you start
Right.
doing that, and then you start imagining the breath going into your heart,
Okay.
and watch it expand.
So that your heart expands.
Yes.
And that brings you into a more peaceful state and more
can, yeah.
more loving, right?
That's another thing. More loving. Self-love is very important too.
Yes.
Self-love, and that's
Absolutely.
and that has a lot to do with the inner critic, because the inner critic is bashing you,
Yes.
and the inner critic is there for a reason, to monitor what's going on, to make sure you make corrections. But when it starts cursing at you,
When it
that
starts,
was a
it starts
problem.
bullying
When it
you.
starts saying
Yeah.
you know you're retarded, you're stupid, all that stuff.
That's
It starts
not good.
bashing you, and you start to believe it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's when it's bad.
Yeah.
You know.
So you want to get into a place where your inner thoughts are you're actually doing so well, and starts complimenting you and cheering you on, like the inner cheerleader. Then you're one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And meditation is important because meditation gives you the mental muscle of the awareness and the concentration. So every time your mind wanders from your breathing and you catch it, that builds awareness. Every time you bring it back to your breathing, that builds concentration. And then people meditate and they say, "Well, I can't meditate. I can't stop my thoughts." Well, if you stop your thoughts, you're either in a coma or dead.
Right.
And the job is not to stop your thoughts. The job is to notice your mind wandering and bring it back. And every time you notice your mind wandering, that is the practice of meditation.
Exactly.
It's not just sitting down and focusing on breath and there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
It's
People
actually when
think
your mind
that's what it
comes-
is.
Yeah,
But
you
it's
have to catch
looking
your
at
mind,
thoughts. Yeah.
go and bring it back. That is the practice of meditation.
Yeah.
And you do it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So you can probably start really small. Like people get very intimidated by it. Like I can't sit, especially when my mind is racing. You can start with 1 minute, right?
Yeah, start with 1 minute.
Yeah, and
Every 2 days, add another minute.
Yeah.
And when you can't sit, just notice that agitation. Notice you're waiting for the clock to go off. Just notice all that stuff. And just in spite of that, bring your awareness back to your breathing. And I tell people, I give them a physical sensation to feel. Like when you inhale through your nose slowly, try that. You feel a cool sensation in your nose, Emma?
Yeah.
And when you exhale, it feels a little warmer or different. That's
Yes.
what you focus on right there. Okay? Or you can focus on your belly going up and down. But you need something physical to focus on.
But that's very somatic work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when the mind wanders, just bring it back to that sensation over and over.
Or you can have like I don't like to say mantra, but like a word that you come back to so that.
Say a mantra as well.
Mantra. Okay.
You know, some people look at a candle or
Yeah.
look at 6 feet in front of them, whatever. But I like the breath because it's always going to be there. You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I like because I started, obviously with this whole blood pressure incident. I was doing karate at the time, so meditation became very prominent for me. And we had our own, karate meditations, and I found a meditation that really worked for me.
Okay.
That was developed by Herbert Benson, who was a researcher from Harvard who went to the Himalayas and studied the Tibetan monks.
Right.
Oh.
And to me, that hour, we had an hour lecture of that in medical school. Of all the lectures I had in medical school, that 1 hour probably influenced me the most, because what it told me was that here you have individuals who could control their body functions just with their thoughts, okay? And so you could do that for good or for bad. And for most of us, we're not secluded in a monastery and can do this, okay? So how can we, do it, differently? So I had this kind of a creative visualization. So I would always visualize a scene. It would have to be active, and I had to be concentrating on the scene. And so that really kind of got me, like when I started doing yoga years later, whatever, and the instructor would say, "Oh, you're going to get thoughts, just let them pass." My feeling was, well, where do those thoughts come from? And let me know where they come from, then I can control them. So I call it, so it's actually when you're meditating, a lot of times when we're distracted, it's because it's kind of a dangerous setting. Okay, we're sitting quietly, alone.
And you have to face yourself.
You have to face yourself.
People don't like that.
You don't, right. So
Yeah.
that's dangerous. But also, could someone sneak up from behind you or whatever? Or do you have your to-do list is, 2 pages long, and you're taking this time to do this.
You're wasting time.
You're wasting
Yeah.
time. So I think it's really important to find a meditation that works for you, okay? And not to not to have this one-up idea of meditation. So
Right.
the reason why I'll tell you, but that is because I would help patients. They'd come to me, and we would do meditation together.
Oh.
I would guide them. I'd do a guided meditation.
Yeah.
Great doctor.
And so I'd close your eyes, and kind of do my meditation as you're coming to like an elevator, and breathe and inhale and exhale, And so I did this with this one patient. She'd come back week by week. She came back one week, and she was a little off, a little distraught. I said, "Is everything okay?" She says, "Well, I talked to my friend, and he said that, the meditation that you're doing is not meditation." He goes, "I've done TM for 25 years, and what you're doing is not meditation." And so what I said to her, I said, he has a lot to learn.
Yeah, there's no real meditation.
Because if he was really a TM practitioner, he wouldn't be comparing he felt one up, that she went to me instead of him, okay? And that somehow I'm saying that my meditation is more superior than his
You
meditation.
could even be walking your dog
Right.
quietly
Yeah.
and just observing your breath can also be a meditation.
Well, TM can be a little cultish at times.
Transcendental, that's
It's good
what it
stuff.
is.
I
Okay.
practice that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's TM, there's mindfulness, there's Kundalini, which is very spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no such thing as one meditation being better than the other.
Exactly.
Right.
The reason I say I teach mine is because it's easy to learn, easy to teach, and you can take that anywhere you want to other meditations.
Yeah.
But TM is no better than any other meditation. It's good stuff though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I call it the rich man's meditation because they charge you a lot of money.
money.
And it's really not
Right.
worth it. It's really not worth it,
Wow.
all that money.
But like I was saying, you can literally walk your dog quietly and focus on your breath and be aware of the settings around you. Be mindful. That's a meditation.
Absolutely.
What's
You don't have
something
to
you
be in the
mentioned?
Himalayas. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Something you mentioned, you scare somebody come behind you. Well, meditation is the practice of accepting whatever comes along in your mind and being okay with it, not reacting to it. Somebody might come behind me, let me go back to my breathing. All right, because there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the acceptance that comes with it,
Yeah.
accepting whatever comes along without
Yeah.
trying to change it.
And that does help make the abnormal normal, because if you're an anxious person, someone who can't do that, by doing those very structured activities, you're actually starting to move in a direction that you've always looked at as abnormal, that would cause
Becomes
that
normal.
trigger, that would come
Yes.
that fight or flight, and yeah.
Yeah. So meditation helped me a lot because being an anxious person, the more I do meditation, I do find the less anxious I am.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing it for a lot of years now, and looking back to who I was 5 or 6 years ago, completely different person. I would be jumping around in my seat, fidgeting. It's really mind blowing how it really works.
Well, for a
Yeah.
long time, they didn't know how it worked. And they said it was just some woo-woo stuff. But now they know how it works.
You can
It
literally
actually
scan
changed your
it,
brain
yeah.
structure.
Yeah.
The frontal cortex, the shift goes to the left. The amygdala starts to shrink, and the hippocampus starts to connect more with the frontal cortex.
That's amazing.
And they've done this with people where they took people who were depressed, they did CAT scans and got the baseline of the brain. And then 8 weeks later of daily meditation, another CAT scan, they show the brain structure changes.
Real
So
change.
there is science behind it. I don't think they
Yeah.
know how that happens, but they know that it happens.
And
Which is
also-
fun, 'cause a lot of times medication, they don't know how it works, but they know it works, so
Right,
they give
right,
it.
right.
So meditation,
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if you see results, that's science to me. Like if you see someone struggling from something and doing this, and then they're not struggling from it, I think that's data, right?
Yes, absolutely. See, to me, that's the most important
That's the
thing.
best
Right.
data.
Right.
and you can say
Yeah.
placebo, but 60% of the medication for psychology is also placebo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
To
you heard
me,
that
it-
thing about the chemical imbalance for depression?
right.
Well, if you go on Google and look up, are there actual studies that show chemical imbalance causes depression? They're going to say there's none.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
That's a marketing thing from back in the 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
A bunch of
were
scientists
pushing
thought,
the,
they thought it might
medication?
be a good theory, so they tested it, and they found out it wasn't, and the drug company said, well, you know what, we'll take it from here.
Yeah,
It's a great marketing ploy.
yeah.
And don't get me wrong, sometimes it does help people, but there's other stuff going on besides chemical imbalance.
Right.
Right.
You don't.
Yeah,
It's
so-
you don't have a genetics tendency to have a serotonin deficiency.
Right.
That's. I mean, it's. I agree with that, and I think we're all in agreement that sometimes you need
Yes.
sometimes you need medication. However, many times if you get to the root causes of this danger pattern, that the fear pattern that people experience, and help people drive them to understand that fear is a liar. Little plug,
Yeah,
right?
little plug.
Right?
It is a liar. It's
Right,
always
right.
lying.
It's lying
Yeah.
because it's telling you that you're in danger and you're not. Okay, so I think that's really the crux of it.
Right. And another thing I was thinking about, like you're saying, going into the higher mind. So let's say even if you do have a chemical imbalance and you do have, like, your brain keeps on firing scary thoughts, once you get into the higher mind, or awareness, as you call it, it's the awareness, like being aware of the mind. So it's a separation there.
Oh yeah. And so in my framework,
Yeah,
the
it's hard to understand.
Yeah,
The
in my-
observer and narrator.
Right. Well, in my
Yeah.
framework, what I did, and again, this just works for me. I'll share with people. They can, I've separated the automatic brain, our brain, from the mind. So whenever
Right.
I say, the brain, I'm very specific, brain versus the mind. And so in my framework, because I think it's one of the very important things, and many people have a spirituality where they believe in God, where they believe in a
Right.
monotheistic creator, let's say, as do I. I know not everybody does,
Right.
and I'm not going to say that you have to follow
You
this
call it a
framework.
higher power or
Higher
something
power,
higher. Yeah.
whatever. But what they do have in common, and people who do not believe in that, what I would encourage them to do anyway, is to practice humility. So it's very hard to practice humility when you're under the gun all the time. So
Right.
when you're being told by these thoughts that you're a loser, that you're less talented than this person, it's hard to be humble like that, right? A lot of times you need successes so you can be humble, but a lot of times that's a false humility, because a lot of people have that false. I'm the humblest person in the world, right?
That's also being
Right.
so humble.
Right, exactly, right? Oh, and they could say it because they're wealthy or whatever. Oh, I'm so humble. Whatever. Well, you're not, okay? But
You're saying you're so humble, you're
right?
not humble.
But being humble is knowing that, and again, thinking that there's this. Where does this consciousness come from? Is it just in the ether flowing around? Well, I put a structure to it. I feel that is our divine inheritance. I think that that's our way to connect with the higher power, that has been given to us as a gift. And so with that higher consciousness, we can actually merge the two, idea of humility, and say, well, I'm just a human, I'm just an animal, okay? I have this fight or flight, this reaction, this thing that happens to me whenever,
Human stuff, yeah.
this stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
But guess what? I have this other ability. And where does this ability come from? It's not me. It's coming from something greater than me. And by embodying that humility, it actually gives this higher mind more power, more ability to be able to look, the observer, look at that brain and say, that's not really.
That's not really me.
That's not really me.
So
Yeah.
you're observing an anxious brain, if you can understand.
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like you're observing the depressed brain. It's not really you. You're not the depressed brain. You're the observer.
The observer.
looking
Okay,
at
so-
the depressed brain.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming. I love this conversation.
Yeah.
Really appreciate you.
Real quick, you mentioned something about
Yeah.
emotional regulation,
Yes.
and it's tough to teach that when you get older. So it's important that we teach our kids emotional regulation. That's more important than the self-esteem. You know, those participation trophies people are getting that you should just throw out. Teach your kids how to regulate their emotions, and they'll take it from there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
So
could
whatever happens to them, we can't protect them from everything, but if
No.
they can handle it and regulate their emotions,
Right.
then they're
and
good
these
to
days
go.
we don't have that. We have kids who are like very timid,
Mm-hmm.
and a therapist is part of their everyday life. We didn't have that growing up, you know. So they really need to teach them that, and how
Emotionally.
not to be so easily offended, you know. So
Stronger.
Could I just say, I mean, to me, that what you just said is like the most important thing, honestly, because it's the children.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we grow up, we were all children, and we're dealing with a lot of our automatic brain because
Obviously.
of the programming. And we don't blame. See, I don't blame anything. I thank my parents for not being perfect because it made me who I am and understand certain things. So, but it's important to understand that the children, right now, everything you do is being, between birth and adolescence, is being accumulated in one of those folders. One
Right.
up, unknown, loss of love, whatever. And you're filling up. So you're going to make them, again, we don't blame. You know, I don't want to blame parents.
You're
or whatever,
structuring them.
but you're structuring
Wow.
them. You have to be careful in how you do that.
Yeah.
Right.
And if we can teach them emotional regulation, they have something for life.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So parents, teach your kids that.